Good evening, ladies as well as gentlemen. Papa Boris here, playing some Wizard of Legend. I have to admit, I'm pretty bad at this game. I've made it to the final boss once and promptly died. But I'm still gonna play because who cares? I feel like doing it. And hopefully, with any luck, I'll actually get better on camera and win one time. If you are wondering what the hell's going on here, definitely check out my previous video in which I explained the fundamentals of the game. I will definitely take a teaching bent in this series, explaining all the stuff that I see. But some of the really basic stuff about how to load spells and things I went over in my introductory video. So what I've done is I've reset the save data, and this is how you start the game. You've got 100 crystal gems to spend, and you've got some arcana to work with. There's definitely stuff that's not great here, but I do like the balancing of this game, which is that everything isn't necessarily terrible to start, and the stuff that you unlock isn't necessarily just strictly better. It's just, different. But anyway, it's definitely exciting to unlock some new things. You don't start with any basic arcana except for the Wind Slash, and in my opinion, Wind Slash is honestly kind of bad. It's very short range, the damage isn't great, doesn't have any special effects. If you can get a nice basic arcana, I'd recommend doing it, and I will definitely keep my eyes peeled in the spell market for one of the better options. Another, of course, glaring omission is the dash. You don't start with any dash arcana except for air burst, which just lets you dash and doesn't actually do anything else. Now, I'm not a super big fan of the dash arcana. I don't think it makes that big of a difference, or if it does, you have to be a very skilled player being able to keep track of that on top of everything else in a very fast-paced game. So I'm not really going to make it a high priority to get new dash arcana, but I will get some once we've spent some gems doing other things I consider more important. Now, for standard arcana, which I will look at next because that also includes the signature arcana, you don't really get a whole lot. You get Dragon Arc, which is this thing. It shoots out 8 dragons that pass through enemies and do some, decent damage. The thing about this is that each of the dragons has its own cooldown. So you can actually use it pretty quickly after you use it, but of course it'll only wheeze out 1 or 2 pathetic dragons. You have to wait a little while for it all to go all the way back up to 8. And then besides this, you also have a couple of Frost Arcana. This is Rebounding Icicles, which is also a, whoops, I did not equip it, which is also a signature move. It's not my favorite move. It's decent damage, as you can see. Now let me actually wait for it to go off cooldown. The damage isn't terrible, but the range is kind of small. And I generally don't like the frost effects or the freezing effects in this game because they don't work on bosses, and so you can't really count on them for that. And there's Frost Fan, which I don't mind, and this is what I will be running with. I'm not crazy about the freezing effect, but it can be good against big swarms of enemies. It's easy to hit things because it spreads out in such a big burst, so I like that because I'm bad. And we'll use that as the standard, or as a standard arcana before we unlock better stuff. And then for signature, besides the Rebounding Icicles, there's this Exploding Fireball, which I will use. I think this is a perfectly fine arcana, and I would be happy to play with this anytime. This fireball does a lot of damage. It has a decent signature effect, shooting out 3 fireballs. And the 50 damage it does, plus the big blast radius, plus knocking enemies back is sometimes very useful. So I'm very happy to have that. And personally, I prefer that over the Rebounding Icicles. Now, as I mentioned in the introductory video, how you spend your gems isn't super important because you will make more gems as you play the game and you'll be able to get everything. But I do recommend spending 75 of your first 100 on one of these outfits because they definitely increase your power level quite a bit, and it'll be a while before you see 75 gems again unless you are preternaturally good at this game. I am going to go with the option that I recommend to new players, which is Vigor. This gives you plus 50 health and plus 1 defense. Now, it's very similar to Grit, which gives you plus 1 defense and 8% armor. The difference between defense and armor is that defense is a percentage reduction of the damage you take. Sorry, armor is the percentage reduction of the damage you take, whereas defense is just a flat reduction. So the difference between Grit and Vigor is the 50 health versus the 8% armor. And to get value to the tune of 50 health from 8% armor, you'd have to take 625 damage, which is a lot. It's more than your health bar. Now, you will get health orbs and health potions and things that fill this up, but it's still a lot compared to just the 50 upfront health. In addition, the way that rounding works in this game is that damage that you reduce through armor is rounded down to the nearest whole number. So if you take 12 damage, because 8% of 12 is just a little bit less than 1, you actually won't reduce any damage from that 12 damage attack. On top of that, the health that you pick up in this game from restoration effects is dependent on your max HP. So for example, healing potions that you can buy in the shop initially restore 40% of your maximum health. So it's not a lot, but that further increases this, 625 number that you have to take in damage from armor compared to just having the 50 health up front, because each time I pick up a health orb, each time I buy a health potion, I'm getting extra health just because I started with more health. So for that reason, I prefer the Vigor over the Grit. Now, if I were playing for myself, being a somewhat more experienced but still bad player, I'd probably grab the Pace, because Pace increases your speed and reduces your cooldowns, and personally, I definitely prefer to play this game relying on my big spells and not relying on my basic spell. That's just my personal style. If you're someone who really likes to rely on your basic spell and build builds and strategies that kind of revolve around your basic spell, then Pace is maybe less effective. But it's always fun to have a faster running speed because you can just get through things faster. Okay, now let's take a look at our relics that we have available here. I'm not going to do any like porting in and out to refresh the relic pool, but these are actually all really good. So the Arcana rewards card gives you a gold discount on the price of buying new Arcana. It's a solid item. You're always going to want to buy Arcana. The Surefire Rocket is not the strongest item, but it's one of the most fun items in the game. What it does is it makes it so that your blue signature bar does not deplete over time. So see how I'm going to, build it up a little bit, and then gradually it decays. The Surefire Rocket makes it so it doesn't decay. Now, what's interesting about this is that if you fill up your bar and activate your after images, so that your signature is active, that normally decays. And in this phase, it will still decay, even if you have the Surefire Rocket. There's another relic called the Infinity Marble that makes it so that once you get a signature charge, it stays and does not decay. So if you get the rocket and the marble, then it just never decays at all. So even with the rocket, you will sometimes waste your signature charge. If you happen to fill it up right at the end of a battle and don't find new enemies before it decays, then it still won't work. Now, we actually have a very interesting on the opposite end of the spectrum here, this Tozy's Pocket Watch. This thing is one of my favorite relics. It gives you a significant decrease to your cooldowns, but it makes it so that your signature charge increases much more slowly. I like this relic a lot, so I'm actually going to just pick it up here, even though it's pretty expensive. We're going to go ahead and equip it. You begin the game, by the way, with only the Freezing Sprite. It's your only artifact or your only relic that you start with. I'm not a big fan of the sprites. You can like them. They do a nice passive effect and help you out a little bit. Personally, I don't really care for them much, so I don't really care that I start with this, but we're going to go ahead and grab this so you can see that it reduces cooldowns but also reduces signature charge. I don't really care that much about my signature charge. I don't find that to be a particularly useful part of the strategy, so I'm just, going to take that loss. There is another item, I forget what it's called. I'll know it when I see it. There's one that reduces your cooldowns by less than the Pocket Watch, but doesn't come with a drawback, so you can keep your eyes peeled for that one. And I know that's super helpful commentary, because I didn't actually tell you what it was called. Ah, there it is. It's Roxel's Pendulum. Okay, I remembered. The Roxel's Pendulum, which I believe is in pool number 1 for the relics, decreases your cooldown without any kind of drawback. Now, I actually would not have minded getting Cyclone Boomerang to replace the Frost Fan. This is a pretty decent Arcana. What it does is it just shoots a boomerang out and it comes back. So it's kind of similar to the Rebounding Icicles, but I don't know, I could be wrong, but it seems like it's on a pretty low cooldown, so you can use it quite a bit. And I would grab it if I had one more gem. Since I don't, and I can't actually buy anything at all right now, I will just leave, and we're going to go ahead and begin our run. Alright, so there's 3 bosses that you face on the way to the final boss. The Earth boss, the Fire boss, and the Ice boss. The order is randomized, so in this case I got the Earth boss first, and I think it was the Fire boss second, and the Ice boss third. So it is random, you don't always get the Earth boss first. However, what's interesting is that the first 2 levels are always easier than the second 2, which are easier than the last 2. So you'll notice if I actually manage to beat the first boss that when I'm fighting the fire enemies, that it's actually a little bit harder than what I'm about to face here. However, that's not because the fire is inherently harder than the earth, it's just because I happen to have fire second. As you can see, that was pretty tough right there. I already lost like almost 100 hit points, and I guess that's the first thing I should mention about Wizard of Legend, is that the game is a little bit harder than it looks. Part of that is because dashing in this game does not make you immune. You can still get hit by stuff while dashing. In particular, if you dash into projectiles, you'll get hit by those. Also, choosing to use an Arcana does have a delay entailed. Not only does activating it you know, leave you a little bit vulnerable for a short time after it's been activated. But like actually clicking on an arcana sometimes roots you in place for some, you know, non-zero number of milliseconds, which can give enemies an opening to hit you. I was very surprised because I watched this guy who, by the way, I recommend if you want to watch someone who's better than me but still has really good commentary. His name is Wanderbot. He has a series of videos for this game, both when it was in alpha and after it was released. And like watching him play before I bought the game, I was like, oh, this game's pretty easy. This guy seems to be taking a lot of damage for absolutely no reason. I would have dodged that, and then I definitely am not dodging anything. And the reason for that is simply that it just is a little bit trickier than it looks, and things can hit you in ways that you wouldn't have expected. Although that time I was definitely just bad. In this game, healing is extremely precious. You only can heal like a little bit. Let me talk about healing in just a moment, because we found one of the 3 merchants on the floor. Every floor has a merchant that sells relics, a merchant that sells arcana, and then like a special thing, which is not always a merchant, but this happens to be a merchant. This is the deal with the devil guy, and his relics are always cursed. They don't cost any gold, but they do provide a double-edged effect. And like anything, you know, sometimes they are like fine in the sense that the double-edged effect is totally worth it. Other times it's not, and then still other times, you know, it kind of depends on the situation. I have a subset of these that I generally like, and then I pass on the rest. I don't like any of these, but I will tell you what they do. So first on here on the right, we have the Spiked Emergency Kit, and what this does is it reduces your maximum health by 40%, which is a lot. And then when you are below 20% max health, you regenerate 2 health every second or so. So you can basically cap yourself at, oh god, I'm at 550 health. So let me actually pull up my calculator behind the scenes here and do some little math. So if I take this thing, I'm going to have 330 health. And then basically anytime I'm at 66 health or below, I can regenerate up to 66. So it kind of gives you like a minimum amount of health. I really don't think it's worth it, or else I'm just not understanding it. So please tell me if you think that I've just like messed something up. Stanza of Flames is an interesting one. What this does is it makes your fire arcana cause burning, but then you take double damage from water spells. Now, if you also get the poem of, there's another thing, I forget what it's called, but basically there are some relic combos in this game that when you get both of them, you get some like super relic. So there's the poem of Fiery Rime, which requires the stanza of Frost and the stanza of Flames, does, you know, a bunch of stuff. It increases fire damage, it increases ice damage, it gives you a chance to freeze and burn foes. With fire and ice arcana. But just the basic one here, the stanza of Flames, I generally do not like anything that causes you to take more damage from effects. If you're really good at this game and dodge everything, it's kind of like a free pass, but if you're bad like me or like a new player, generally my advice is stay away from things that make you take more damage. And then overpriced insurance is very weird, and I maybe should give this thing a shot. Basically, what it does is it makes you lose all your gold at the start of each stage, and then it heals you for 4% of the gold lost. That seems awfully small, and I just don't think it's a very good way of healing. So I'm going to go ahead and pass on all those. There will be relics that I will take. I didn't like any of those 3. Okay, so that was great. These guys show off, oh my god, are you serious? They show off an important feature of this game, which is that enemies do telegraph their attacks, but it is just like a little bit trickier than it looks to not get hit by these things. So as I was saying, health in this game is very precious because you get these health orbs every once in a while. You get them from killing a boss, so sometimes you might get lucky enough to find some, but each one heals you for a percentage of your maximum HP. And it's not much. If you have 500 health, they heal you for 25 each. So, like, what's that? That's a fourth of a fifth. So it's 5% of your health. It'll be a little bit more than 25 because I'm wearing a robe that increases my maximum HP. But it's very small and they're pretty rare. You can buy 1 healing potion per floor from the relic merchant, whom I have not yet found. That costs 100 gold. And it heals you for 40% of your hit points, which is a lot, but each subsequent healing potion that you buy heals you for 5% less. So the second one will only heal you for 35% of your max HP, and then it drops to 30, etc. Now you'll notice I'm being very cautious. A good rule of thumb in this game is if you're not good, be cautious and slow. Because otherwise, even though it seems like you have plenty of time to dodge these guys' attacks when they rear back with their lance, it's deceptive, and you are really gonna get hit more than you think. All right, we got, looks like there's our first little challenge room. So some rooms will lock the doors once you get in and give you some kind of an enclosed situation to deal with. And I like these a lot. This is really good level design because it prevents you from just kiting everything as a player and puts you in a situation where oftentimes you're in close quarters and things are quite dangerous. So you can't just like necessarily load up on, oh my god, nothing but long range spells and expect to call it a day. Oh goodness gracious. Okay, well I'm going to take advantage of my relic here, which is giving me shorter cooldowns, and we're just going to kite these guys because I can. I'm doing actually embarrassingly bad here, but that's good, right? Because it just shows, you know, what a real new player experience might be like, getting hit a lot. And yeah, so every time you take damage, it's kind of a big deal because generally speaking, outside of a few particular builds, you know, you're going to really feel the burn every time you get hit because that health is sort of lost forever. Okay, so we found the boss room. And the boss room will have 4 portals. A portal to the middle, which is this blue one. A portal to the special merchant, which is the red one. There will also be a portal to the relic shop and a portal to the arcana shop. But only after you have found those shops. Now in this case, as you can see, I have not found the relic shop or the arcana shop yet. So I'm going to go find those before fighting the boss. Part of the reason for that is simply that I would like to see if I can buy another spell. This is one of the main ways you can increase your power level early in the game, at least in my opinion. You know, different people might choose to play this game differently. But for me, one of the main ways I like to improve my power level is to get another spell, because if you do take a cooldown, standard signature spell, arcana-oriented approach to this game, then having, you know, basically 50% more spells, 3 instead of 2, gives you a lot more to do between cooldowns. Now, in my series here, I'm not necessarily going to kite everything with long-range spells. Oh my god, that was pro play right there. I'm not necessarily going to kite everything all the time. I will do some runs with melee spells. In fact, some of my favorite spells are short-range things. Just for in the beginning of the game when you don't have a whole lot of really good short-range stuff, it can be difficult. Okay, so homing flares, I'm not a super big fan of. It just makes these like little fireballs that go out and find things. Searing Rush is a dash. I pretty much never buy these for gold during the run. Gold is too valuable for that. Grasping Earth is okay. It's a short-range spell. Doesn't really work well with this situation. And Searing Chain I'm not a big fan of, even though it is enhanced, meaning that it has like a bonus effect, more damage or more range or whatever. I just really don't like this spell. It creates like... it's kind of like your basic one, your basic air slash thing, only it does like a few of them and it shoots you out forward farther. I just don't really care about that. So what I'm going to do is check out the relic shop to see if there's anything there that piques my fancy. What relic did I choose? Oh, right, the Toadsy's Pocket Watch. See if there's anything there that piques my fancy. What am I missing? Ah, down here. Okay. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to portal in here, then we're going to portal back to the spell shop. And then if I don't like anything in the relic shop, then I'm going to hope that I can find the arcana shop. Wait, what was I... Oh, I thought it was here, but that's totally not the case. Oh, up here! Oh, goodness gracious. Okay. Yeah, I will hope to find another spell in the second level. And then it's going to be like the beggars can't be choosers kind of a situation. I'm just going to have to take anything if there's nothing that I particularly am fond of. Alright, so we got a whole bunch of stuff. So like I said, Healing Potion will heal you for 40% of your max HP. However, it decreases by 5% for every time that you've drunk a potion, so it's good to wait. Alright, the Tesla Coil adds a chance to shock your enemies. I'm not a big fan of these adds a chance to do stuff. They may be strong, I just don't like them. The Monocle is actually not bad. What the Monocle does is it increases the critical hit chance. This is really good if you go for a particular build, which I'm sure we'll do at some point with the Vampire Goggles. It's one of the fan favorite, community beloved relics. It gives you healing every time you score a crit, so one very obvious way to play the game is to start with the Vampire Goggles and then load up on as much crit boosting things as you can to heal is very valuable from your crits, because then, you know, once your health total goes to a low amount, you're not necessarily stuck with it. I'm going to go ahead and get Yuffie's Shawl. All this does is it gives you some armor, so it just reduces incoming damage, because I'm bad. I'll want that. And then this is the Surefire Rocket that we talked about before that makes it so that your blue bar doesn't deplete until it's full. And then that gives me 78 gold, and I'm going to go ahead and fight the boss. We're going to take this very slowly. Crash Knight's a tough one. The Melee Knight, the melee bosses, which you think would be the easiest ones, are actually some of the hardest ones, because the designer did a really nice job. They made it so that the melee guys have some, you know, they have some sudden moves. And so even though it may seem simple to do what I'm doing here, which is just to kind of run around and take pot shots, it's really just quite surprising how much you get hit. Now, when you hear that bird sound, you can sneak in there for a couple extra hits, because he's stunned by your epic attack. But my advice is dash away. It's better to dash early and dash often, because this guy will surprise you if you give him half a chance. Okay, so like I said, this game a little bit easier than it looks. If I honestly weren't recording, I probably would have already gotten hit several times by now, because I would be less cautious. But because I am recording and try hard mode, I'm making sure that I don't screw up too horribly. Okay, so this is actually, wow, that's a hell of a pickup. So we get a really great spell, Shock Assault, one of my favorite spells. This is actually a signature spell. I cannot put it into my signature, what? Oh god, did I just give bad advice in my opening video? Oh, you know what it is? I can change the mouse binding, but this spell is still the signature spell, the 6-floating fireball, regardless of which key I bind it to. That's probably why my introductory video, I looked like an idiot, because I was like, well, why isn't this doing the thing? Anyway, so, yeah, this is a great spell. It's a signature spell. It's one of the few signature spells that I think is, like, good enough as a standard spell. Generally, standard spells are better than signature spells. But this is one of the few that I think is really good. So what Shock Assault does is it gives you a dash, and it may look like kind of unassuming, but it makes you immune while you're dashing, so like you can't actually get hit by anything. And then the description is very vague, but what this does is it causes you to bounce between enemies within a certain area 8 times, doing a little bit of damage each time, and potentially also stunning them a little bit. And it's quite strong because you will always end up where you started. So if like there's an enemy right here and I do this move, I'm gonna do my shocking around, and then I'm always gonna spit back out right to here, right where I began. So you can sometimes end up in the face of a projectile when you exit the spell, but otherwise it gives you a short time of immunity while doing a bunch of damage to enemies. And then we've got over here the Glove of Midas, a fantastic relic to just pick up for free. Just increases gold gain, which is awesome. I mean, I generally wouldn't recommend paying for it, but if you can get it for free, that's just a really nice pickup. So now we've got a really nice spell and some extra gold. Now, the spell that we got is sort of a melee-ish type of spell. It's better than using basic arcana, but I'd like to pick up another long-range spell if possible. And then, oh god, I almost fell in the pit. And then we'll have a nice, versatile collection of spells. Okay, let's just back the F out of there. Now these shields, you gotta really be careful because they reflect projectiles, and the projectiles that get reflected, let me show you how this Shock Assault works. Oh no! I hit myself with my own fireball because I didn't follow my own advice. Oh Jesus, did I get hit by that again? Ah, god. Yeah, those shields are very annoying, and again, it's a good illustration because I really like that the designers don't just let you kite everything to death with impunity. You do have to work for it a little bit. Oh god, there's an invisible rogue there. That's a little bit risky. Okay, so doing a little rough. I'm already below half health. So it looks like this run I'm gonna temper my expectations. And oh god, okay, hold on a second. Oh geez. This is the kind of room where if you're going for the kind of kite 'em up strategy, you're gonna have a rough time. One of the things about Shock Assault is that you do need to aim it carefully, because if it's like a high risk, high reward kind of a deal. If you miss, then what you end up doing is just dashing right next to an enemy while doing nothing to them. Oh no, don't hit me with my icicle, please. Thank you very much. Hey, where are you guys going? Okay, so that just makes it a lot easier for me to kill these guys. Go away with your stupid shield. You jerkwagon. And you can see that I'm able to attack these guys pretty regularly with my abilities. That's because of the pocket watch. That cooldown reduction really does make a difference. And you might have also noticed that my signature charge never really even comes close to filling up, and I don't really care about that. I don't think it's necessarily a good, it necessarily has to be part of your strategy. Like, if you want to use it, go for it, but if you don't care about it, then don't care about it. That rocket that we saw in the first floor is actually a pretty good combo with Tozy's pocket watch, because if your signature meter never depletes, then the fact that it charges more slowly is, oh my god, I pressed the wrong button. Then the fact that it charges more slowly is mitigated to some degree. The reason I might be a little bit weird sometimes is I have been playing a lot with Shock Assault, and I often start with it, and before I cleared my save data, that is. And I'm used to it being bounded to my right mouse button. Oh, did you really fly across the pit? Okay. I'm used to it being bound to my right mouse button, so sometimes I will click the right mouse button. You know what? Why don't I just do that? Hold on a second. Oh yeah, look at that. Oh, wow, pro dodging. There we go. And then we'll use Q for the frost fan. That seems legit. So you can see I dodged the boulder because I was doing Shock Assault and I just jumped right past it. Oh, see, that was the case where I missed. So I just dodged next to him, but didn't actually do anything. Luckily, those guys are kind of slow when they're not shooting little projectiles at you. So he just stood there and waited for me to give him the business. Normally, if you're not suffering from decreased signature charge, Shock Assault's actually one of its many virtues is that it does help you. Whoa, okay, that was the time when it was bad to miss. One of its virtues is that it does fill up your charge pretty decently because oh god, really? Because it hits a lot of enemies. Okay, can we, there we go. Notice I ended up back on the other side of the pit because that's how Shock Assault works. You end up where you began. All right, can we get over here and finish this up? Oh, you're not dead. Okay. Now you're dead. Oh, I forgot to mention, you should break stuff. Break the furniture. Break all the, oh, okay, that was fun. Break all the things, because sometimes there's gold, sometimes even health orbs inside of the thing, so it's worth it to break the stuff. All right, we got Bolt Rail, which is a pretty good basic, and it's even enhanced. I might get that. Lightning Aspect is okay. It makes things take damage when they get close to you. Mag Sphere can block projectiles, and this is another basic that kind of sucks. All right, I guess I'm just going to do this. Even though there is no good long-range spell here, I'll at least improve my basic spell. All right, let's actually hop in here, and might as well fight the boss. Grand Summoner. Okay, this is a... Oh, Jesus, I used my Shock Assault, and I missed. Oh, jeez. Okay, that's a bad start to the... Oh, no, I'm pressing the wrong button. Okay. Oh no. Okay. All right. This is gonna be difficult. We are, if we're gonna survive here. Oh my god. Oh crap. Oh god. Oh, I'm dead. All right. Well, that was a good run. Thanks for watching, everybody. Hope you enjoyed that. Please like and/or subscribe if you did for some reason, and then I'll be back at the beginning of the next video to try that again and redeem myself somewhat by playing a little bit better. Take care.